Today I will be going over a budget control deck I built for only $30. Control kind of have a reputation of being expensive, but fear no more. The deck won't be really as controlly as a regular control deck, because we run some creatures in it too. But luckily, most of the cards in the deck are counters, removal and card draw. I'm going to stop talking and get into the deck right now. Let's start with the creatures, who isn't that many. We have 6 drakes, 4 Enigma Drake and 2 copies of Crackling Drake. They're both 4 toughness creatures, which means that they dodge both shock and lightning strike. But the most important part about them is that their power is equal to the number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard. Sometimes they get up to 15 power and just kill your opponent in 1 or 2 swings. Most of the time though, they get up to about 7 or 8 power. And they also have flying, which makes them really hard to block. The only difference between them is that Crackling Drake costs more, but also draws your card when you play it. Moving on to our counter spells, we have 4 copies of Sinister Sabotage. It costs 3 mana and just straight up counters a spell, and it also lets you surveil one. We also run 4 copies of Syncopate. Syncopate costs blue and X to counter target spell unless its controller pays X. Then, if the spell gets countered, it's exiled instead of going to the graveyard. That can be pretty good, considering there's a lot of threats in the current standard who cares about the graveyard. For example, Arclight Phoenix. Then we run 2 copies of Essence Scatter and 1 Negate. They're both 2 mana. Essence Scatter lets you counter a creature spell and Negate a non-creature spell. If you want to make the deck more controlly, you can add some copies of Cancel, but I think this is fine. We also need some removal, so we run 4 Lava Coil. Lava Coil is a sorcery for 2 mana that deals 4 damage to target creature, and if that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. The exile effect can be pretty relevant if you play against a Golgari deck. It's also good against Arclight and Rekindling Phoenix, who otherwise would come back. The last removal spell in the deck is Beacon Bolt. It costs 3 mana and deals X damage to target creature, where X is the number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard. And it also has Jumpstart. Most of the time, we will have enough instants and sorceries to kill any of our opponent's creatures. Also, in case our opponent's board gets too out of hand, we also run 2 copies of River's Rebuke. Now for the most fun part of the deck, the card draw. We have 4 Chemister's Insight. It's 4 mana to draw 2 cards, and it also has Jumpstart. Then we run 4 copies of Opt. If you didn't already know what Opt does, which probably about 95% of you does, it's 1 blow to scry 1 and then draw a card. It can fix so that you don't get too many lands or get enough lands, and it's also a free card in your graveyard for the Drakes and Beacon Bolt. The mana base is really simple and only consists of 4 Izzet Guildgate, 11 islands and 9 mountains. That's the whole main deck, so now let's move on to the sideboard. In our sideboard we have 3 Negates and 2 Spell Piercers for when we're up against control decks. Then we have 2 copies of Essence Scatter and 2 Fiery Cannonade for aggro and creature based matchups. Fiery Cannonade deals 2 damage to each non-pirate creature. The fact that it's a non-pirate does not matter so much. The only pirate that's really played in Standard is Fanatical Firebrand, which they would be able to sack in response anyway. The last 2 sideboard cards are Dive Down and Disdainful Stroke. Dive Down can protect our Drakes against removal, and Disdainful Stroke is good against any big stuff like a Doom Whisperer or Teferi. If you want to spend a little more money on the deck, here are some upgrades that you can make to it. Ral, Izzet Viceroy, and Niv Mizzet, Perron, are both great payoffs. Niv Mizzet costs 3 blue and 3 red and is a 5/5 flyer that can't be countered. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, he makes you draw a card, and whenever you draw a card, he pings something. Ral is a 5 mana Planewalker who starts at 5 loyalty. His +1 ability makes you look at the top 2 cards of your library and put 1 into your hand and the other into your graveyard. His -3 deals damage to a creature equal to the number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard. His ultimate, although rarely used, gives you an emblem that says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, this emblem deals 4 damage to any target and you draw 2 cards. Ionize isn't that expensive, but it was still enough to not get included in the budget deck. It's exactly like Sinister Sabotage, except it deals 2 damage to your opponent instead of letting you surveil. The last card you can add is Steam Vents, but that's way too expensive for a budget deck. 4 copies cost double the price of the rest of the deck. Anyway, thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment about what you would like to see a video on next.